anxiety isn't always a problem. Sometimes it's a normal nervous system response to an abnormal environment. There's a kind of fatigue that doesn't announce itself dramatically. Nothing crashes. You still function. You still answer messages. You still finish tasks. Yet inside, there's a persistent sense of bracing, as if part of you is always waiting for impact. What makes this fatigue especially corrosive is how quickly it gets moralized. People call it weakness, fragility, lack of discipline. But that interpretation is too shallow for what's actually happening. Because much of modern anxiety isn't born from a single crisis. It's born from never truly coming down, from living in a constant micro-state of readiness. A nervous system is not a philosophy. It doesn't care about your ideals. It cares about signals, pace, noise, exposure, pressure, uncertainty. When those signals keep stacking, you don't need to be broken to become anxious. You only need to be human in an environment that rarely allows recovery. That's why this conversation matters. The central question isn't, what's wrong with people? The more precise question is, what happens when the conditions of growing up and living change faster than our psychology can metabolize? The real shift wasn't more screen time. It was a redesign of development. It's easy to reduce everything to a tired slogan, "Phones are bad." But that misses the deeper transformation. The real shift was structural. We redesigned the ecosystem where attention, identity, and belonging are formed. In older developmental conditions, childhood and adolescence had a physical architecture, unstructured play, real-world trial and error, boredom that eventually turned into imagination, friendship that was imperfect but embodied. There were limits: geographical, social, and psychological. Comparison had boundaries. Social life had pauses. In the newer architecture, the stage never closes. Social life becomes continuous. Attention becomes a marketplace. Image becomes currency. And being noticed starts to feel, subtly, quietly, like survival. Here's the contradiction that clarifies everything. In many places, we reduced real-world independence while expanding digital exposure. Less real-world autonomy means fewer chances to build competence through manageable risk. Meanwhile, the online world introduces a different kind of risk early: ranking, judgment, social volatility, humiliation, performance pressure, often without a protective dose and without the mature skills to interpret it. So, the person loses some freedom in the physical world and loses some safety in the digital world. That combination doesn't merely produce distraction, it produces vigilance. And vigilance, sustained long enough, becomes anxiety. Why anxiety rises? Not a flaw. An interaction between biology and design. Anxiety doesn't require a dramatic trigger. It requires a loop. Stimulation to interpretation, to rehearsal to physiological activation, to more interpretation. The current environment makes that loop easy to enter and difficult to exit. First, comparison becomes endless and visually persuasive. The brain can intellectually understand curation, yet emotionally respond as if the display is reality. When you repeatedly consume highlight reels, the nervous system receives the same quiet message: I'm behind. Over time, behind stops being a thought. It becomes a baseline feeling: tension in the chest, restless sleep, constant self-monitoring. Second, attention fragments, and emotion fragments with it. Emotional regulation isn't primarily an intellectual skill. It's the capacity to stay with a feeling long enough for it to change shape. But a fast-switching attention environment trains the opposite. Constant escape, constant switching, low tolerance for stillness. The mind becomes excellent at fleeing discomfort, and then wonders why discomfort feels larger. Third, social life turns into a performance economy. There is a difference between living among people and living before people. When you feel watched, even indirectly, you start treating yourself like a product. Keep it clean, keep it impressive. Don't risk being too much. Don't risk being wrong. The stress isn't only criticism. The deeper stress is the continuous readiness to avoid criticism. That readiness is exhausting. It drains life at the level of posture, breath, and self-concept. So the point is not young people are weak. The point is, a system that monetizes attention and visibility will naturally produce more nervous systems stuck in hyper-alert mode. That's not moral failure. That's an outcome. The way out? Not extremism, restoring conditions for a nervous system to settle. The most mature response here is neither panic nor nostalgia. It's design. If the problem is environmental and structural, the exit is also structural. Less about heroic willpower, more about restoring conditions where the nervous system can breathe. This begins with sleep, not as a wellness slogan, but as biology. Sleep is where emotional memory is processed, threat sensitivity is calibrated, and resilience is rebuilt. If sleep collapses, everything becomes sharper. Anxiety, irritability, self-doubt, compulsive checking. Protecting sleep isn't strictness. It's infrastructure. Next comes independence, not as ideology, but as evidence. Anxiety is often the absence of proof that you can handle life. Autonomy, age-appropriate, gradual, real, creates proof. Proof is what quiets the brain more effectively than reassurance ever will. Then comes embodiment, moving social life back into the body. We do not regulate ourselves by thinking harder. We regulate through rhythm, walking, making, building, learning, being physically present with others. These aren't healthy habits in a shallow sense. They're ways the nervous system relearns safety through experience. Finally, attention needs boundaries, not as punishment, but as dignity. Platforms are designed to reduce friction, but friction is how we protect ourselves. Fewer notifications, designated offline blocks, deliberate unreachable hours. The phone not being the default answer to every micro moment of boredom. The goal isn't to reject modern life. The goal is to stop renting your attention to a system that profits from your restlessness. And beneath all of this is the philosophical layer. A stable life requires a private center. If your worth is continuously measured by visibility, reaction, and social feedback, the self becomes unstable by design. The exit is not becoming indifferent. The exit is building an identity that doesn't require constant public voting. So the closing thought is simple. An anxious generation isn't a diagnosis of human decline. It's a diagnosis of an environment that made calm rare. And because environments can be redesigned, this story is not fatalistic. It's practical. It's solvable, quietly, gradually, intentionally. And with that, our walk end here. Thank you for walking with me to the end of the journey, and see you again soon in another adventures with so many more amazing books and stories. Goodbye for now.